Hey, Bob. I think you're muted. You're muted.
Okay, you are correct. I was muted. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
So how are you
I'm
doing?
grateful. It
What
was
happened
actually,
what happened to your fall?
this morning, unfortunately, I got, I'm going to take MRIs and stuff over the next few days. They had to do a whole set of x-rays because I was able to catch myself. I've still got some pretty good reflexes, but I was going up an incline, and the way this building that I was entering is set, just to the left of the incline, they have stairs that are kind of hidden by the snow, and the stairs are about 1.5 inches taller than the next one preceding it.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I didn't notice that I was veering off my usual path. And then I came to that next stair, and I was carrying about 60 pounds of stuff with me because I had computer equipment and test equipment and all kinds of things. I went down so hard. I ended up, they cleaned it up at the hospital today. You might be able to see like a little bit of gouge there in the finger.
Yeah, your knuckle,
But
yeah.
yeah, there's skin gouged all over the place. And so anyway, now it's under control because thankfully, due to all the back surgeries I've had,
Mm.
I have to have certain medications, otherwise I'm non-functional.
Mm.
In order to control the pain of these inoperable, further, never going to happen surgeries. So using that in conjunction with the braces and supports that they gave me for everything that the camera doesn't show, I should be okay tonight. We'll do good. And I was kind of happy about one thing because of about 20 years worth of having to live on pain medications and trying all these different surgical procedures to ameliorate that.
Uh-huh.
When they started giving me the shots of Dilaudid to cut the pain from the fall,
Yeah.
they said, how is it you are talking really intelligently? Most people, by the time they've had like the first one, they start sounding drunk. You sound fine. I said, yes, that's 20 years of being on this stuff. So
Wow.
we're good. Sir, yes, sir. Okay.
Hey, Charlie, how you doing?
Sir.
I think you're muted. Yourself muted, Charlie.
I am.
There
Not
you go.
anymore. Thank you for
Now you're
saying
okay.
something.
Now we got you.
Yeah. Yay, me. How are you guys?
We're doing good.
Yay.
Very happy to see you, sir.
Oh, you too. You too, Bob. How's everything in
sir.
the good old north of the brook?
Thankfully now the brook is flowing, and I think we're going to have a very enjoyable evening. I really look forward to it.
Yeah.
And
This is a good group of guys.
I decided to try something, so I'll try this for a moment. I did hook up. Now, I'm not going to generally use the second screen.
Oh, you're
I'll
going to try
move
it,
it over
huh?
to you. Now, here's the purpose of that second screen. The purpose of that is I can leave up there the files sitting. I can see the files, and then
Yeah.
as I want to bring a file over, then I can just kind of drag it.
Okay.
And it should.
Let me change the presenter to you just so you can try it.
Okay, yes, sir. Go ahead. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. I don't know, Orlando, Florida. I don't know. It's probably nobody. Okay. Let me
I'm
switch
sure
it
they
over
want
to
to
you.
tell you to renew your car warranty.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. You should have it in just a second, Bob.
Okay, now let's see if this does what it's supposed to. I should be able to. There we go. Now let's try another one. And okay, that was a terrific try, and I think I'm going to leave it on this one screen, and we're going to stick with that single screen like we did last night.
Okay.
And it's good that we tried. Okay, we're there.
Okay, so well, what I see now on your screen, why don't you put your first slide on your screen so that when we do start, you don't have to fumble around with it.
Okay, that's a terrific idea. I kind of like that. And
Okay, hang on one second. I'm gonna mute myself because Valerie's called a text to me and she said we can't see her, which is she's correct. So hang on.
okay. Oh, this is terrific. It's like a mirror. Please forgive me for a moment. Neatness counts. Okay. Let's see, that should be then this one. Yes. Yes. Okay, this I can minimize. Reminds me.
Okay, Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Valerie's trying to get on, but apparently she's not as a presenter. So I switched the screen to her. So she's
Okay.
going to use her screen first, and then you'll be after her. Okay.
Terrific. That's fine. Of course. This is a team effort. I like that.
Okay. So Valerie, the one problem is going to be us being on the phone. So I'm going to get off the phone with you.
So can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
But you can't, I'm not on the webcam, correct?
No, I don't see you, but I do have you as presenter. So check
Hold
on
let me
your
click the
control
button.
panel. There you go.
There
Yay.
you go. Okay, cool.
Okay, so now you want to put something on the screen?
Absolutely. Give me one moment and I'll be happy to do that. Sorry for the confusion there.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got too many screens open now.
Okay, inspection support network. Okay, we gotcha.
Clear this. I'm just trying to clear everything off for you guys.
Okay.
So you can see me on the presentation,
Yes, inspection report network, #1 home inspection software solution.
and you can hear me. So we're in business.
Okay, sounds good. So what I'm going to do is, you can just leave that up for right now, Valerie. I'm going to introduce everybody in just a minute, and then we'll let you start your presentation. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Sure. So we've got about a minute and a half to go. So yeah, I'm glad everybody was able to make it, and I'll explain a few things to the group before we start, and then I will turn it over to you. Okay?
Thank you, sir. I look forward to your abilities as a moderator when questions come up, because there may be some important ones.
Well, you better hold off on that, because if anybody gets out of line, you know.
Aha!
So,
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. Okay.
Okay. So let's see. We've got quite a few people that are guys still clicking in. So
Okay.
we'll just give them another 30 seconds, and then I'll start talking. Okay. So Valerie, are you calling from Orlando?
Yes, I'm from Orlando. I'm in there, Orlando.
Oh, too bad. You're missing all the snow and cold.
I know I'm not missing it at all. That's why I live here. I grew up in it, and I'm done with
Okay.
it.
Okay.
You gotta tell that mouse he owes me some money.
The mouse?
The mouse, yeah.
Yeah, the mouse.
I worked for the mouse for 15 years.
He still
Okay,
owes me money.
well, everybody, it is 7 o'clock, and I know some guys are still clicking on, but we're going to get started. I just want to do a couple of housekeeping things first. If anybody has a question, go into the control panel, which is on probably the lower or right-hand side of your screen, and you can type your question in. And then, as we can, I'll try to relate them to the speaker. And also, so you all know, if there's something that you see on the screen that you want to jot down or something, you don't have to do that. You can go to the top of your screen. There's a camera, a little icon of a camera. If you click on that, it'll get a screenshot of that slide or photograph, whatever it is. So you're welcome to do that. So before we start, I'm just going to introduce our speakers. On the left, I think maybe if you can see him on your screen, is Robert Bioko. He's going to be the main presenter of the water heaters, and he's got a lot of knowledge, and he's open to receiving questions and everything. So we'll get to him in a bit. You probably all know Charles Belfontaine. He helped me make the connection with Bob so that we could get this presentation going. And on the right-hand side of the screen is Valerie LeKemper. She is from Inspection Support Network, and she's a vendor that a lot of us use in our inspection business. And so she's going to do a presentation about her software. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get started with her right away, and then we'll just take it from there. Okay, Valerie, welcome. It's all yours.
All right, well, thank you so much, Frank, and thank you to everyone. As Frank has said, my name is Valerie LeKemper, and I'm with Inspection Support Network, or ISN for short. I'm just going to give you a very brief, quick little introduction to our software. Some of you may have heard the name, some of you may already be a current user. So if you've already touched it and felt it, you know how wonderful it is to have this application available to you. But we're just going to go over it briefly and kind of give you some of the highlights and explain to you how ISN might be able to help you and your business. So one thing I always like to start out with is you like to hear from those within your industry, right? It's always great to hear good feedback and real, true, honest look at how others are using this platform. And we often hear and ask for feedback. One such individual is Pam from Inspect It Like a Girl. You may have heard of Pam from that location. In 2014, we decided to sign up for ISN in hopes that it would increase our business's efficiency. And almost immediately, we found that everything we had spent hours laboring over in the past could be solved with ISN. So what Pam just said is what our goal is to take all those little tedious tasks that can take up a lot of your time and a lot of different types of programs and that sort of thing, and bring them all together into one easy to use software. So we're not a report writer, and we don't answer your phone, but we can do almost everything else that you would need to run a successful home inspection business. And we are by far the largest home inspection software in the country. As a matter of fact, 1 in every 4 inspections flow through ISN. And with almost 20 years of experience helping our inspectors take their business to the next level, that's what we're here for. So whether you are a 1-person operation or maybe you have a team of 20, ISN can help you simplify, streamline, and grow your business. So the 3 pillars of what we want to provide to our users and what really sets us apart is 3 things: business growth, workflow automation, and personalized support. So when it comes to that business growth, of course, you want to be able to grow your business. And we have the business tools to help you with your branding and strengthen your customer relationships. And we do this by streamlining your marketing processes, at the same time saving you time and increasing some efficiency. And let's be honest, who doesn't like efficiency these days, right? In regards to our workflow automation, we're really just going to save you several hours per week. And so in regards to efficiency, that's where you're really going to find that extra efficiency, is saving time. Because ISN simplifies things like their automated scheduling, report delivery, email follow-up, and billing. And we are the only industry that integrates with every report writing software out there. And finally, personalized support. We provide free one-on-one training once you sign up as an ISN user to help you really get set up for success. And that support continues throughout your journey with ISN with additional training opportunities and our support team, who is literally just an email, chat, or a call away, because we truly believe our success is your success. So we're very, very committed to that within ISN. So the way you look at ISN and the features that are available in ISN that help you grow your inspection business are really located right here on the screen. There are top 10 tools and features. Starting at the top, we're just kind of go around this circle here and touch very, very briefly. We could be here for hours speaking to all the great features that are available within ISN, but let's just kind of briefly go through that. And if you have any questions at the end, please let me know. We can touch on some of those different topics of what can we do and what can't we do. So starting at the top on the right, customizable calendar. So the ISN calendar feature will allow users to select from several calendar views and quickly pull up your calendar when you're on the go. And it ensures that you never book or double book your inspection again. And one of my favorite tools is that it easily syncs with your Google Calendar, and you can share it across Google, Outlook, and any other calendar applications. You can really sync those calendars up nicely. The customizable order form, moving on. So if you're relying on pen and paper to take orders, I don't know about you, but I typically lose pen and paper, scratching things down on the go. So now we have the offering of the customizable order form, where you can capture all the information that you need with just a click of a button, validating address, square footage, and the year built by connecting with Google and Zillow right within the platform. Love that. The inspection fee calculation. So you can easily calculate inspection fees based on your pricing structure. And if you offer mold or radon or thermal imaging or any other ancillary service, it is possible to pair the services together to create packages that will help sell those for you. Moving on to automated personalized messaging. ISN automates all of the things that cost you time. So think about it, emailing your customers, follow-up emails, payment calculation, capturing signatures, all of those things. Basically, you can set it on ISN and just forget it. Automated agreements and reports. Save time by sending out your inspection agreements and your signatures without using outside services like DocuSign, and store all of your information within ISN. Easy payment processing. Easily connect your ISN with a payment processor to accept your payments online or even when you're on site via your mobile device. Online scheduling. Offer your potential clients the ability to order an inspection anytime without having to speak with a live person first, making it easier for your agents and your clients to do business with you. Moving on to marketing tools. Mass emailing, targeted emailing campaigns are a breeze, and you can set yourself apart from the competition with a real estate dashboard, which you can customize and add as an app onto real estate professionals' phones so they can schedule inspections with you, message you, and even pull up past reports easily and efficiently. Business reporting. Basically, any data that is entered into ISN can be used for reporting purposes with a click of a button. It's very easy. And finally, as I said, report writer. You're able to use any third-party report writer software easily with ISN, and no more typing duplicate information, which is very efficient and super helpful for you who are incredibly busy. So these are just very briefly 10 amazing features within ISN, and there's always something new being added and some sort of feature being updated because we're listening to our inspectors and doing our best to provide the best for you to be successful. So when it comes to pricing, it's very simple. No contracts, no cancellation fees. So feel free to try it out. We're going to talk about in just a moment how you can try it out. The cost is $4 per inspection for the first 50 inspections per month, $3 for the next 50, and $2 for the rest of your inspections that month. We would love for you to try it out. And so as a special for you tonight, we are offering you 4 free months of ISN. And that's a very high offer because we don't typically offer quite a lengthy trial period as this. So we really definitely think you can see some value within using the ISN platform. So we're going to be sending an email out here shortly. Frank's going to be working on that with us. And it's going to have this website that you see here, try.inspectionsupport.net/win. So don't feel like you have to write it down. If you want to, great. If not, we'll send you that email. And for 2 reasons. One, you're going to be able to go ahead and sign up for a free trial. And I will tell you, you'll get that great training with my team and get you set up for success. And on top of that, we're going to be doing 2 drawings for 2 $100 gift cards. So just as a thank you for listening tonight. So definitely want to check out that website, try.inspectionsupport.net/win, to try. Who doesn't love a gift card? And also to be able to check out that 4 months of a free trial. So be sure to look out for the email. So with that, I want to say a brief thank you for giving this opportunity to chat with you this evening. I'm going to open the floor up for any questions that you might have. And just a reminder, make sure you try to win that $100 Visa gift card and check out that web address. If you have any other questions, we are always available as well by phone and email. So just give us a shout and we're happy to chat with you. And with that, I'll give that back to Frank.
Okay, well, thank you, Val. So are you going to stick around for the whole presentation, or do you want us to get back with you afterwards if we have to?
Why don't you go ahead and capture those questions and we'll get all those answers back to you. We'll be happy to do that.
Okay, so guys, like Valerie said, if you have any questions, you can jot them down on this, or you can send them to me directly, and we'll try to answer them. And then watch for the email, because I think this might be something that worth trying. I know guys who have used ISN and they really like it. Anyway, thank you, Valerie. I really appreciate it. And And so what I'm going to do, I don't see any questions right now, but if any come up, I'll let you know. So
Wonderful.
I'm going to now change the presenters and give it over to Robert, Bob Bioko. Just 1 second here, Bob. Down here.
Sir, am I off of mute?
You are. We can hear you. And hang
Okay,
on 1
that's
second.
terrific. There's a little button on here. I just wanted to make sure it's that the glowing red means that you can actually hear me.
Yep.
Okay, now
Yep.
I'm going to do a show my screen here.
Okay.
Let's have a little fun. Okay, here we
And
go.
while Bob's doing that, I just want you guys to know he took a bad fall this morning on some ice and snow, and wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it, but he was a real trooper, and he wanted to show us his clean desktop. This is what all plumbers do. They've got clean desktops.
Oh my God, how do you fit all that on there?
This is actually one of 6 computers that are sitting here. For instance, this one is really special. That's a really expensive solid state. Anyway, the point is there's so many calculations and things. So I'll give you a little brief about myself because some of the stuff I say is going to sound a bit controversial. And please, I invite questions because we're all trying to make this a better industry. And in order to do that, everybody's got to kind of learn from each other. I can learn from you. I hope you can learn from me. But I'll tell you the following. For instance, if anybody right now were to go to the Menards website and look up SKU number 6831,000. When you go to that website, everything on there I write. And if you go to the use and care manual in Chrome, you'll see that my name comes up on that tab because Menards wanted that because it's more homey. The folks like that. So I talk to people from all over the country and actually all over the world because I write a lot of manuals for the major water heater manufacturers. In addition to that, I hold currently 4, pretty soon 5 US patents and some pretty technical stuff. And let's see, I'm a commissioner and I'm on 3 UL standards panels. Anyway, I get into it. So the point is, you might hear a couple of things that you normally don't hear because, in fact, the people that normally address you would be a plumber. Although now I have gotten, it's 06056 300 477. I actually now have an apprentice plumber's license because even though I'm 65, I want to see what you're seeing. And in order to do that, I also have to see who is doing in order to cause you problems to find it. So while I do go out on some inspections for a municipality, I also want to see it from the other side, the good plumbers from the ones that really know how to hide it and can really sneak it in on you. Those are amazing ones, such as when they do the drainage system and they use a mission band and it's not an O-shear. And do you catch that or you do not catch that? Because that's a code issue. So I'm going to pull up on screen 1 after I show you the following tool. Everybody says Bob on it because people have a way of taking other people's tools. Every inspector should have this with you at all times when you go into a house. And what this does, when there's electricity present, without touching it, no contact. Now I'm going to tell you where this comes in. I am working on a project because I know that people are getting electrocuted. That's for sure because it's written at the saferproducts.gov website and the Consumer Product Safety Commission. It's just that the people over there, they can't put the pieces together. So while people are getting electrocuted, and I gave a presentation on that to the Northbrook Fire Department, they're now changing their training to take into account that you can actually drop dead touching an electric water heater. But the problem is I can't seem to get a group of people to back me. So while I'm on the 3 UL standards panels, they know it's taking place. They all admit it, but they won't do anything about it. And why? Because they make the heating elements. This is a typical, this one's titanium. So you would think it would never split like that. But on the inside of that heating element is magnesium oxide. That's part of the standard. Magnesium oxide is a terrific insulator when it's dry. In the 1970s, they went from wraparound elements on the outside of water heaters, and they went to immersion elements, so they sit in the water. Now, that's kind of misleading because somebody will tell you, hey, my electric water heater, it's got an EF rating of 98 or 100%. But what they don't tell you is that to make the electricity, that's only about 40% efficient. A gas water heater is about 82% efficient. I'm talking a tank type. So an electric water heater might cost $650 to heat less water than a gas water heater, which costs about $200 a year and recovers 2 to 3 times more, because an electric water heater in a house is normally 4.5 kilowatts. So it's only equal to about 18,000 watts, whereas even a low-end gas water heater is 40,000 BTUs. 80% of that is used, so that's about 32,000. And on the electric heater, you're only getting 18,000. So that's kind of an important thing. Now, this first set of pictures, you may not understand all of it, but the basic calculation is this. I take it you can see these numbers. I
No,
just
Bob,
kind of threw them together.
no, Bob, all we can see really is your desktop with all your icons on there. We saw 2 tiny little pictures at the bottom that we couldn't identify.
Okay, can you see this picture?
I see a spreadsheet or something.
This one would be a PDF. Can you see this?
There you go. Yep.
I've got okay. Now, can you see where it says 20 on that meter?
Yes.
Okay. That is a 480 volt water heater that came very close to killing me, but it didn't. Because this, I kind of suspected. When an electric water heater is installed, it is supposed to have absolutely no resistance to ground. None. Zero. This has 20 ohms to ground. The portion where it screws in to that metal plate, that's part of the problem. It was never rated correctly. They connected it up. They didn't put a green ground wire into the water heater. This happens all the time. This is very common. And what would happen here, because it is isolated by dielectric unions, and you'll run into homes that have plastic piping. There's a dielectric on the cold inlet. It's kind of a picture of the entire installation. What ended up happening on this, it was so isolated and there's no green ground wire, and then the connection that goes into that on-off box is also high resistance. It was never maintained, that a shorted out element ends up causing 24 amperes, which is, I'll just pull this up to get the number. It's 1,978 times more than what it takes to kill you. If you touch that shell, because of that 20 ohms of resistance, which can also happen on a home water heater and does constantly. If you touch that shell and you're in, for instance, the basement that this unit is in, or you're on anything that's even the slightest conductive, or you're touching this and you touch something else, you'll get 24 amps going through you. It will not blow the circuit breaker. The circuit breaker for this, for instance, is a 50 amp breaker. It's not going to blow. 24 amps is going through it. It'll kill you, but it won't blow the breaker. So what I'm trying to get the National Electric Code to do, and why you have to carry that electrical meter, is if you don't check before you touch and make sure that there is no power from a shorted out element going to the jacket of the water heater. This could also apply to an electric boiler. It can even apply to some appliances. You should always check first and make sure that what you're about to put your hands on is not conductive to you. So, for instance, this morning as I was in the hospital, I was talking to the doctors and the nurses. They had given me some Dilaudid to help kill the pain. And they said, wow, you're very lucid. We can't believe you're this technical with all that. Well, that's my life. So even that can't stop me. But I tried explaining to them, people come in, they might present with a heart attack, but if they would actually investigate, they'd find that some of these cases, at least, the person is really 8 feet away from an electric water heater or an electric boiler. Because what happens is you touch it, you get an arrhythmia, and then you wander away and you drop. They can't equate it because there's enough resistance that you don't get electrical burns on your hands. And so it looks like a heart attack, but actually it's this. It's the high ohm resistance. So the National Electric Code only cares about ground fault receptacles when, as an example, you plug something in, plug and cord. That, even though there's a ground wire, they still want a ground fault. But when it's hardwired in like this, they don't care about a ground fault yet. That's what I'm trying to get them to change. That's what you need to either watch out and use a test meter, or if you can talk to anybody and get them to change it, get them to change it. This is a highly dangerous situation. It's been going on since the 70s. And I've had meetings at UL now, and the people at UL, they agree this is wrong. But the people that actually vote are outsiders, and they have motives and agendas not to change what is. So they just want to leave it because it's cheaper not to redesign, and it's cheaper if nobody catches it.
Okay, a question, Bob. Question.
Sure.
Now you mentioned that there should be a ground wire. As inspectors, where would we see this? Say, is it something that's visible, or would we still have to do the a sniffer test first or something?
You always want to do that test first with that. You always want to do that test first.
Right.
You want to make sure.
Right. And if that lights up,
right.
do we look for a ground or something? What do we do?
Now, if that lights up, the first and most important thing is shut it off. Whatever that thing is, shut it off. You could also have a problem at the masthead. There could be an open neutral coming into the house. A lot of times mastheads they're not new and they're not inspected, and the wires deteriorate, especially the connection where the neutral from the electric company is hooking up to the neutral coming out of the masthead from the house, and the neutral is insufficient. So you might not cross the phases. You might not get 240 coming out of a receptacle, but it can be enough where it raises, where you get what's called a floating neutral. That can kill you. So you always want to go with that sniffer test first.
But
you want to check
specifically to the water heater, though. I mean, we're going to be checking all the electrical stuff too. But let's just talk about the electrical water heater. You get that beep there. Shut the water heater off, and that's the end of the inspection.
Shut the water heater. And check and make sure that circuit breaker, they're miswired too many times. They're mislabeled. Make sure that that circuit breaker shut off that water heater. So check it again after you shut off the breaker.
Okay.
Because sometimes they switch, let's say the air conditioner breaker, the water heater breaker. Now there's geothermal in some of the houses. Just breakers can get switched up. Be very careful. Make
Okay.
sure it's the right one.
Great, thank you.
Can I jump in on that too?
Please.
So, Robert, so when a water heater fails, one of the main things that goes is the tanks rupture and the water's all over the place. We know that's failed. All right.
Mhm.
And let's say somebody hasn't maintained it. So, and I'm not trying to dismiss that when these heating elements open up, that they're going to energize the tank. I get that part. I understand it. What I'm trying to see is what is what's more common? Is it more common for the element to open up and expose the magnesium, or is it more common for the tank to rupture? How often are we going to run into something like that? How big of a deal?
Thank you. There are some slides, but I actually brought in something to show you. I'm turning around for a moment.
Okay, while you're doing that, Bob, one of the questions came up too, again, where do we see the ground wire on that?
Okay, the ground wire at the very top of a residential water heater, there's a ground screw. It's green. The ground wire is supposed to come from the panel, the distribution panel. There's a ground bus at the bottom of the distribution panel. You also have to, of course, make sure that the ground rod is proper. So the ground rod has to be working, but remember, there's always 15 ohms resistance in a ground rod, sometimes more. So sometimes 2 or 3 ground rods might be necessary, depending on the soil and what part of the country it's in.
Okay, but we see there should be a green wire at the top of the water heater going to the,
Going to the panel.
okay, thank you.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Now, if that's done properly and the ground actually works, the chance of getting an electric shock or an electrocution is reduced but not eliminated. It is only eliminated when they change the code and, just like in a bathroom, demand a ground fault circuit interrupter circuit breaker. That's the only way to eliminate it.
Okay, thank you.
Because grounds unfortunately have impedance. And sometimes a little baby with a sippy cup, maybe it's got acidified like Tropicana juice, or remember we used to all drink fruit punch when we were kids, and that's acidic. It's very conductive. So maybe they spilled the sippy cup, they touch the water heater, it happens to have a element in it that's got a split sheath, so it's putting electricity to the shell.
Okay.
The adult might touch it, not get an electric shock. The child might touch it, get quite an electric shock.
Right.
And it's a problem.
Thank you.
Now, I get these anodes custom made because you can't get these pretty much anywhere. These are pure magnesium, and you'll see a set of slides later why magnesium and not aluminum, although aluminum needs to be used if it's unchlorinated well water because of the defibrirosulfuricans, which is an obligate non-pathogenic anaerobe. And unfortunately, aluminum gives off less hydrogen, so you get less smelly water, especially if it's high in sulfur content. Notice how this anode is kind of eaten up. This anode now is smooth and new, and it's very long. It goes 48 inches, so it'll reach the bottom of a tank. When a customer buys a new water heater, the manufacturers deliberately put in an anode that only goes about 40% the length of the tank. Now, what that does for them, it'll protect the top of the tank from the galvanic action of dissimilar metals, but it does not protect the bottom of the tank where a lot of that heat transfer is taking place. Or if you have an electric water heater where you have that copper tin bottom element, copper unfortunately is at a very different position on the electromotive series than steel. So it forms 0.777 volt potential, and a lot of leakage happens there. There are actually patents out from some of the manufacturers where they admit they want the element to short out and throw power into the tank where somebody can get electric shocked. So if they ever say, "Oh, we never intended that. That's just a standard," I've got the patents. They want it. They want it to hit the tank. But
Now,
the thing
Bob,
that
is that something that a home inspector could see just doing a visual inspection? Are we going to know about those rods?
this is the problem. Now, this is where you need to look into the records. This is where if you're doing an inspection, and especially if you've got good customers, if you can get them to keep records and take pictures. You know, a lot of times I think some home inspectors will tell people as your house is getting built, take pictures of everything as it's going up. The same thing, notes, having proof of certain maintenance procedures being done, very important. Here's one I was on. This one, the water heater was about 3 years old. Now, in the things that I write, I always say, please don't go past 3 years. I got the National Boiler Inspection Code changed. So now at another time, I can show you in some of the manuals from like A.O. Smith. In the new manuals, especially for the chimney vented water heaters, they say remove and inspect no less than every 5 years. Look at the inside. This idea of flipping a lever, here's a flipped lever. It's almost clogged. Now, even with the lever flip, it was much more clogged than this, but I've been moving it around. Some pieces have been breaking out. Flipping a lever does not work. But here's where the shock comes in. Once in a while, you'll hear of a house exploding. That probe corroded. It no longer works. It's out of the relief valve. Now, why did that happen? Turns out, and that's part of the reason I was able to get the National Boiler Inspection Code changed nationally. Turns out the standard for the probes is a problem. It is allowed to corrode. So if these valves are not actually taken out, if you can't do an inspection and get proof that this was removed and somebody looked at it, you must assume that the valve is either clogged up and it's not going to relieve the BTUs it needs to, or it just doesn't have a probe. And the water could literally get up to 359 degrees. And then if someone turns on a faucet, the water depressurizes, and that's when the house explodes because it's equal to about double nitroglycerin. That's a problem. So, yes, records of maintenance, but proof, because anybody can fake a record. But if they take pictures, or if you teach your customers, this is what you need to do, I can get you more value, because we can show when we do the inspection, you've kept up on A, B, and C. Or if you're trying to help a buyer, hey, this is what happens. And if this wasn't checked for, you've got to check for it. Start negotiating. Take into account that this has to be checked. It could be very dangerous. You don't know. And since a lot of people end up, they say, oh, we're going to move out of the house in 3 or 4 years. They end up undersizing the water heater. They put in a smaller one. They say, oh, we're moving, so we're not going to put in the one that needs to go in there. We'll put in a smaller one. I'll see if I can maybe find that slide.
While you're looking for that, Bob, if I don't mind, we can tell the difference between a magnesium anode rod and an aluminum anode rod. And I always forget which is which, but one has a nipple on the top and the other one doesn't. Is that correct?
Okay. The way to tell the difference, let's see. No, that's not it. Okay, I'll get to this one next. I'm going to drop this down a minute, and then I'll get back to it. The way to tell the difference is, unfortunately, the exception to the rule is ream. Ream, I constantly argue with them. I write stuff for them, but they know my position on this, and I know theirs. Theirs is they're trying to keep their costs down throughout the country. They use a magnesium anode rod. However, it's a resistor anode rod. So in places that have chlorinated water, the current density isn't enough. It doesn't protect the tank well enough. A pure magnesium anode rod has a nub at the top of it. So if you feel across it, there's a little nub right dead center. That's how you can tell a magnesium anode rod. Now, what you can't tell from that is it a 0.75 diameter or a 0.86? The 0.86, of course, is better. There's more magnesium on it. On a ream, they all feel flat, but they are magnesium generally, but they have a resistor, so they're equal to aluminum. But at least they don't make the gel, but they still don't protect the heater sufficiently. So after about 3 years, you would then still want to change the anode. And if you've got chlorinated water, or you control the sulfur, or you're controlling that bacteria that I mentioned before, go with the pure magnesium. The homeowner can get 20 to 30 years easily out of a water heater. I've got water heaters going for 40 years now, and it's not that hard. It's just proper maintenance. But the choice of anode is crucial.
Thank you.
Yes, that's how you tell. Does it have a nub? Now I'm going to pull up that picture. Okay. Now, shortly, or hopefully now, you can see a tray or a bucket.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the one on the right is full of white goop, white gel. The one on the left is virtually clear. I set these up to try to teach people and show them why, when they go to the electronics store, or why, when they don't ask the installer, what are you putting in, it does make a difference. The one on the right is an aluminum anode rod. There is nothing being supplied to this. I just have it electrolytically set up with a wire. There's no batteries, no secrets, no nothing. What you see is what you get here. And what we have is it's reacting with some copper, just like it would react with the metal tank. The metal tank is hooked up to copper pipe. Even though there's dielectric unions, it still backfeeds through either the ground wire or through the gas line. There's all kinds of ways that dielectrics are bypassed. This is what forms on the right with an aluminum anode. In Northbrook, I've been called out by the water department. Several people have made an electronics store rip out the water heaters and then have a plumber install magnesium anode rod water heaters. Although some of the distributors will get in aluminum, even if it's a professional brand, because they want to take care of well water that they might handle 70 miles away from where they are. It is crucial to be able to tell a homeowner whether they have magnesium or aluminum, because when the people move into the house, they go to turn on, let's say, the bathtub, that gel can come out and they're sitting taking a bath with that goopy gel, and that stuff can form in just 3 to 6 months. So you can find more on it. I wrote the bulletin 14 at the A.O. Smith website. So that's www.hotwater.com. That's based on my patent 4789407. So that's aluminum hydroxide gel. It's insoluble in water. The magnesium anode gives about 2 to 3 times better protection. There's a much higher current, so it gives a better monatomic hydrogen coating. It'll keep the tank from leaking better. If there's more exposed areas of, let's say, elements or glass lining that might have broken off, there's more current to help protect it. But those aluminum anodes, unfortunately, they're just basically for very infested well water where any hydrogen is too much and it'll make smelly water. But if you ever hear anybody say, oh, just cut the anode and put a plug in there, they don't have to keep paying for the leaking water heaters. You don't want to cut the anode rod and plug it. You want to treat the water, and that's actually very easy. All over the internet are places that for $100 or $200, they sell a peristaltic chlorinator. You just have somebody put that into the main feed coming into the house, or they can put it into the feed going to the water heater. That'll stop the bacteria. It's bacteriostatic. You don't need enough chlorine to be bactericidal. You just want to control it. The bacteria won't grow. You can then switch to a magnesium anode rod, not form all that goop, and the water heater lasts longer. And you don't have that MIC, microbiologically induced corrosion, which happens with well water. So unfortunately, a lot of the well drillers, they tell the people, cut the anode rod. Your water won't smell anymore. Wrong. Cut the anode rod. The water heater will keep leaking prematurely, even if you got away with it being under warranty as a homeowner. If the manufacturer didn't check it, but they still have to pay the labor, that's not under warranty. The labor is way more than the water heater. They don't need the water heater to leak. They need to just replace the anode every 3 years and inspect the relief valve every 3 years. If you don't have proof as an inspector that the electrical circuit has been tested, that they know there's a perfect ground, that these other maintenance items have been taken care of, that the water heater has been properly descaled. Now that 683-1000 at Menards, that's an example. I'm not in any way pushing it or trying to sell it. It's specially formulated, it's approved by the manufacturers. But what I'm trying to do with that is to show you there is a completely code compliant, fully food grade, non-toxic material that can be used so that that water heater doesn't overheat. The elements can be cleaned off so they don't split. The bottom head can be cleaned if it's a gas unit so that you don't overheat the combustion chamber and either crack the nitride hot surface igniters or ruin the electronic spark igniters or burn out thermocouples because of all the radiant heat coming down. A clean water heater does the heat transfer so fast that the areas that are heating only get a few degrees above the water temperature. Once you even get a 1/16 to a 1/4 inch of scale, it can get up to 1,000 degrees. It gets very hot in the combustion chamber. Sometimes you'll even see, if you're taking on the older units thermocouple tests, you watch the millivolts drop down. I've done it dozens of times. The unit's limed up. People wonder, why does my pilot keep going out? Turns out there's enough precipitate in there. It overheats the bottom. The cold and the hot junction on the thermocouple or the thermopile become the same temperature. The pilot goes out. The elements, if they get coated, they split. That's what happens with insufficient maintenance.
So Bob, as home inspectors, of course, we're not going to be taking those things apart. Is there anything that we can listen to or
Yes.
tell us about that?
Okay. If you are at a house and the homeowner gives you permission because you are going to then touch something, if you go to the cold water inlet valve, let's say you run enough hot water so that a heating element comes on, or you run enough hot water so that the main burner comes on. As the water is running, turn off the cold inlet valve so that you lose water pressure. That lowers the boiling point from about 250 degrees. It'll bring it back down to 212. You will be shocked at how many water heaters suddenly start making so much noise you think they're going to explode. They're not. That's just that now the scale that's on the elements starts sizzling very loudly because you can actually hear it boiling, or the scale that's on the bottom head of the tank where the flame is hitting. Now that water that has been superheating inside of the lime scale, now it's boiling at 212 instead of 240, 250. You can actually demonstrate that water heater has not been properly maintained. Listen to the noise it's making. That thing is loaded. And you can prove that to the homeowner just by running that simple test.
Okay, good.
Just
Thank
shut
you.
the gate valve.
Thank you. Then be sure to turn it back on before you leave, right?
Oh, yes, please turn it back on. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they'll be calling you going, I haven't got any hot water. At which time you can say, well, you needed to take a cold shower. You were too excited anyway during the inspection. So now maybe that'll cool you down. And that could help. They, people in inspections can be interesting. But I don't want to close that tab. Let's cancel that. Now, here's something also as a home inspector. This is important for you to know. Now, this goes to tankless water heaters. One of the great, now this is a controversial statement I'm about to make, because there are a few places where tankless water heaters can be used. Tankless water heaters are one of the great con jobs of all time. And now I'm going to prove it, or at least I'm going to try to support my statement. Among everybody listening to me right now, come up with a figure in your own mind. I go to you and I walk in because I'm the plumber and I want to pick up an extra 12 grand. And I say to you, do you know how much money you're losing? You've got 50 gallons of stored water. You've got 75 gallons of stored water. Oh my God, if we put in a tankless, there's no stored water. It heats it up as it goes. You're not losing all that standby heat. I respectfully beg a few people that have courage, because this takes courage, I admit it. Could you please tell me how much money a 75-gallon water heater set to 130 degrees sitting in a basement loses in an entire year? Go for it.
$10.
$18,000. I don't know how much.
So we
Okay.
got 10 and 18,000. Who's closer?
Okay. Thank you for guessing. The answer is between $7 and $12. So the $10 was right. And here's why. When the calculations are actually done, this is why they always stop right there. They go, oh, do you know what you're losing? But they won't tell you. They won't tell you because they know the mind is going to think $300, $400, $500. That's 75 gallons. It's been sitting there all year. It may be new water coming in that's being reheated, but in essence, it's 75 gallons of hot water that's been sitting in the basement all year. It only takes between $7 and $12 to heat it up. That's it. That's the heat loss. The electric loss on a tankless is about $30, $40, $50 to run all those controls. And the repairs on most tankless units, I know there's always somebody that says, I've had mine for 20 years. I've never had a problem. But I talk to the contractors that I go out to lunch and dinner with, and they're always bragging, yeah, I picked up another $500. I picked up another this. But repairing them every year, going to the same house, all these repairs, all these clogged filters, all these bypass valves that don't work. But here's the biggest problem you run into. Almost every tankless water heater, the gas line to the house is undersized. I'm going to see if I can find, here we go. No, that's the commercial one. I want to get, please forgive me a minute. There we go. Okay, here's an electric water heater. I was just here. It's sitting in a basement, in a crawl space. Now here's the gas meter. Did the gas meter come up now? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The customer eventually wants to change the location of the electric water heater to the middle of the crawl space, or actually put in a gas water heater and save $450 a year in electric costs. A tankless water heater, the smallest one that is useful in a house, and I have the National Fuel Gas Code, I can back all this up factually. A tankless water heater, smallest one that is practical, is 200,000 BTUs. They'll call it 199,900. That's so they can stay under ASME. It's 200,000. 200,000 means it burns 200 cubic feet of natural gas per hour. That is a freaking blast furnace. Entire apartment buildings use 200,000. In homes with these larger showers, they need 400,000 and 600,000. They have to do what's called master slave on the tankless units and daisy chain them together, because tankless water heaters will cut down the flow if the temperature starts dropping, because they're only really good for 2 to 3 gallons a minute, one shower head. But that meter on most houses is sized for 200 to 250 cubic feet an hour. So what do a lot of tankless manuals say? They say put the tankless water heater in first on the line. That way it can get the gas. Everything else downstream. Go look at the Navian, by the way. That's a great example of where it says it right in the manual. Put it first, because they know it's going to be an undersized gas line. That you can catch. You start adding up all of the gas appliances, size the gas line that is in there. You'll see that the plumber probably ripped them a new one, got an extra $6,000 to $10,000 to put in the tankless, and never resized the gas line, and certainly never called the gas company to change and redo the infrastructure. But then that's the next problem. Now let's talk about the infrastructure.
Well,
I'm going
Bob,
to.
one question or one statement. One of the inspectors says his tankless Navian works fine with a 1/2-inch gas line.
Yes, it does. It certainly does. No doubt about it. He's got to check the BTUs on it. He's got to check and see what is normally going on. And they've changed the gas valves on there. They use a gas valve that works more now off a vacuum. It doesn't work off of pressure. So his Navian will fire. It may not fire at full capacity, but as it's taking all of that gas, if it's firing at the full 200,000 BTUs that it's likely capable of, what size is his meter? What size is the common gas line? What about the 34,000 BTUs that go to the dryer? What about the 150,000 BTUs that go to the furnace? You're talking maybe 450 to 600 cubic feet an hour that are necessary when you start adding all these gas using appliances. So of course the Navian will work. If it didn't work, you would have replaced it by now or had the gas line changed. But if you actually size it like you would do on a home inspection, you'd likely find the gas line it's not sized correctly. If you were to take a gas meter and check the gas pressure, it's no longer 6-inch coming into the house. When everything's firing up, it's probably dropping down to 3.5 inches. That.
Okay. Well, Bob, just we are starting to run a little bit short on time. So, are there any other things that you can show us?
Yes.
Specifically?
Let me get to this. There's a new gas cock. First, I'll get. Okay. This is new from Woodford. It just came out maybe about a year and a half ago. The reason it won't burst, the other ones usually will still freeze and burst if there's a cold enough snap. There's a relief valve on the back of these things. If somebody has a 19 CP12, it actually has a 5-year guarantee on it. It won't burst. It will actually relieve the pressure. It takes a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of water. It won't burst. Then, when you're checking gas valves and regular valves, these actually all have a meaning. This gas valve, for instance, says 600 cold water pressure, 600 pounds, but it's actually only good for 1/2 pound of flammable methane natural gas. It is not good for 600 pounds of anything except compressed air. As far as flammable gas, it's not. In order to be rated, it's got to have a G number. So let's take this 5G. 5G means that's good for up to 5 pounds inside only in the United States. Where that says 600 water, oil, or gas, that gas doesn't mean methane gas. That means compressed air. That means non-flammable gas. It's very important to differentiate that. So this valve is good for not 125 pounds of natural gas, which can occur. It's underground. It's only good for 2 to 5 pounds, or it's rated for a 1/2 pound PSI by whatever the, in this case, CSA would have rated that. And then up top, you can see this B1644. B1644 means 5 pounds. B1633, that means 125 pounds. So you always want to look for that ASME rating or a BRS number, which is 125 pounds. I'll scroll down quickly. Those are the type of mission bands that are generally used underground, but these are the same kinds of things. If you see PVC under a sink put together, you don't want to see plain rubber. You want to see it with the stainless steel around it. Those rubber mission bands, not something you want to be seeing. This gas leak detector, it's actually in the National Fuel Gas Code. When people get done doing piping, they unfortunately don't do it. This is maybe something you can carry with yourself just to maybe take an occasional test if you think you smell something. The gas code says, even after you've used all kinds of fancy, and I've got the fanciest detectors, they even detect non-methane, just anything like turpentine, but they still want you to take gas leak detector, which bubbles, and they want you to check for that. That's the part from the National Fuel Gas Code. So,
Question.
okay.
You know, for leak detection, can you, in a pinch, can you just use laundry or liquid
Yes.
detergent and some water?
Yes, if you use something that's not where you have to worry about it causing corrosion of the underlying gas material, because you may be by a thermostat. So if you use a mild type of a soap, I know Dawn is very popular, I use it, but if you can find something that's relatively mild, like Palmolive, and then see if you can rinse off some of it when you get done, just to make sure that there's no residual. Palmolive has never, I've come back years later, it's never caused any corrosion. But if you want to be super careful, you check into that. You check into, they now make, especially Odie, they make a water-soluble flux. That is so big for saving copper pipe. People don't ream the pipe, and then they use the petroleum-based flux. It never rinses out. And on the outside, it never really wipes off. That's when you get that greasy stuff. The water-soluble flux, it just either wipes right off, you can rinse it right off, and on the inside of the pipe, it immediately dissolves, so it doesn't keep eating through the pipe. It causes many less leaks, but you still want people to ream it because there's a vortices that forms. Toilet flappers. You'll notice Corky seems to be making most of the flaps now for Gerber and Kohler. That's a Kohler flapper. That's a Corky flapper. If you take them out, they are the same. You can't find a difference. So the right flapper has to be used, but sometimes it's okay if it's not the genuine part per se, if it's the exact same thing, which you can find out by talking to Corky, which is part of Lavelle, it's not necessarily a deal killer, although on Kohler toilets especially, they have a special canister and there's a certain gasket. The only way you're going to find that gasket is by changing the canister. It's got a 3-to-2 flush, so it has a higher velocity. It goes into a smaller area so it can speed up the flow of the water, so it'll flush the tank better. This is a brilliantly designed circuit breaker, and if you ever see something like this, instant failure, that's not good. Now, this goes with the new rules again. These are 2 relief valves that have been on. If you're ever inspecting a condominium, get into the boiler room, get in there. If you're inspecting a condominium, if you see relief valves like this, and they're more than 3 years in, the National Boiler Inspection Code now states, and I know it because I wrote the code, it now states these things have to come out every 3 years. The state fire marshal has to demand it, and they have to be removed, inspected, and if there's any corrosion on the probe at all, changed. So these are 2 FVX. They're good for 750,000 BTUs. This is very important for you to know. Just, we're getting at the end of time, so I'll kind of move it.
Okay, just one quick thing though. This is primarily on condos for multi-units, or can you also find this in homes?
You'll also find it. You'll find it on. There's mansions you'll go to where they have storage tanks. They'll have water heaters or tankless heaters that are hooked up to storage tanks. The relief valve has to be in the top 6 inches at a residential house if it's got a storage tank. It's got to be within the top 6 inches, just like this. Got to be in the top 6 inches. And there's 2 ratings. The rating at the top is called the NB rating, National Board. Only use that rating and a potable system only to get the pounds for the relief valve. So if the storage tank and the things that are used, if they're 150 pounds, the relief valve can be 150 pounds. If there's 125 pound something on the line, the lowest rated thing, then the relief valve has to be 125 pound. But this is so important. This will save you or save a person from serious injury. The big mistake is, and again, that's now part of the National Boiler Inspection Code, they didn't realize it, they didn't know. There's a CSA rating. It's the lower number. So this relief valve is good for 1.9 million BTUs ASME, but it's only good for 750,000 BTUs CSA. That's the number that counts, because in a potable system, you're never going to get to 150 pounds. It runs between 20 and 80. If it runs between 20 and 80 and the thing won't clear unless it gets to 150 pounds, that's when the water gets up to that 359 degrees. That's why when the probe falls off, the whole place can explode.
Okay.
You have to go by the CSA number, not
Great.
the ASME.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, yes, sir. Let's try to bring that down. Okay, we're back. How are we doing with time?
Well, we're actually running over, but
Okay.
everybody's still on. So, if you've got some more, pertinent slides to show, that'd be great.
Okay, if I may, yes, I do. This is one of those units I have taken care of for years, but this is something I want to show you regarding what you're going to run into with high pressure regulators. Now, can you see it's on the right-hand side? That is a high pressure regulator. that is ANSI Z2180. I also got that code passed. That's 5.8.2 in the National Fuel Gas Code. I was running into taking tests, and it would turn out that when the main burner would shut off because there's no more standing pilots, everything shuts off. The gas pressure in the line between the high pressure regulator and the gas valve that can only handle half a pound, it would go up to whatever the incoming gas was, which would be 2 to 5 to 10 pounds. So I got the code changed. I was able to prove it to the people at NFPA. They changed the code. Now, in this case, as it's operating, you can see this is not where I'm using my electronic. This was before I got it. This is a liquid manometer. You can see on this one, there's about 8.5, 9 inches when it shut off. But this had to be changed because invariably what happened when I shut off the main burner and was testing it, let's see if I can, here we go. Notice on this one, it's 7 inches top and it's over 8.5 inches at the bottom. So we've already exceeded what the gas valve can handle. As it turns out, what you're actually seeing here, if you look at the top of it, you'll see where there's a bunch of bubbles. It actually blew the liquid right out of there. That was the liquid that was left. The high pressure regulator failed. It failed. They had to change it. And what's happening now, what the gas company is doing, because some people are putting in tankless water heaters and the gas line is so undersized, they're giving people high pressure gas and telling them to put these types of regulators into their houses, into each of the appliances. But unless you check those appliances every year, that regulator can fail. Now, this regulator, by the way, the people that put it in, it's illegal. Notice how on the upper left-hand side, there's a vent limiter on that regulator. That's illegal. If you're inside of a building that's supposed to be piped to the outside, that's supposed to have a gas line so that if the diaphragm ever gave way, the gas would go outside the building. That's illegal. But if you get to a house and it's got high pressure gas and they've got these regulators dispersed throughout, you've got to tell the people, you've got to make a note somewhere. You must check your regulators every year and make sure that when the appliance is shut off, you're not suddenly going to line pressure. If that happens, one day, one of those gas valves is going to fail. And they're
Okay,
going to
Bob.
be very embarrassed.
Okay, quick question though. On that regulator, is that a brass plug in there? Is that what you're talking about? That should not be there?
Yeah, that brass plug, I'll try to make it a little bigger. That's actually called a vent limiter.
Okay. And that should be
And
vented to the outside?
Right. It's actually supposed to have an assembly that can also be bought with these maxi trolls. And then you come off with maybe 1/4-inch copper tube, and it actually goes outside. It must vent outside. I caught one. I did an inspection in Northbrook. They had put in 8 million BTUs worth of equipment in a new apartment building, and they used vent limiters. So I talked to the inspectors and I showed them the code. That's why they wanted me out, because these are very difficult systems to understand. So I do a lot of inspections on that kind of thing. And I showed them the code, the problem, the vent limiter, and sure enough, the plumber was forced to change all of them. Once they vented outside, then I was okay with it. I signed off on it. But that is not okay. That vent limiter is illegal. So bad news. And this is going to happen more and more in homes. And that's why it's so important that you're aware of it. Because if you're not, these people have these high pressure. Now with the blow up, you can kind of see the bubbles a little bit better on top. But that's what happened. It literally blew the liquid right out of the manometer. I'll try to pull up another one quickly. This is something This is an ongoing problem that a customer is having. If you see this in a house, you might want to make a note of it. They bought this off-brand under-counter sink. One of these sinks broke. I've been working with Crawford Supply. They have some Kohler under-counter sinks that can go in, but because this brand is such an off-brand, all Kohler can suggest is you've got to change both under-counter sinks because there's no way you'll ever match the color. There's no way it'll ever be right. So if you go into a house, you might want to make a note. What kind of things do they have? Are they common parts or are they so special that it really takes a lot of money in order to replace it? That it's actually rather important. That happens more often than you think. Now, we'll get there. This was a water heater. I went on to observe. This was a maintenance thing with the SKU 683-1000. Oh, good. That add-on, by the way, is disabled on Outlook. That was the anode rod in this 2012 water heater. It's worthless. It doesn't work. This is what I wanted to show you about undersizing. See that vent? That is a 4-inch vent. A 4-inch vent is for a 50 or a 60,000 BTU water heater. The water heater that was replaced before these people, they put in a 40,000. The vents that come with these heaters are called a 3 or a 4. That confuses a lot of people. They think on a 50 or a 60,000, if it has a 3 or a 4, you can then use a 3-inch. You can't. It's always on a 50,000 BTU. The code changed in the early 80s because so many escutcheons, these red, like the red thing here, it would be blue on the other side. The flue gas was blowing back in. 50,000 BTUs and above must be a 4-inch. This is a 4-inch. The water heater itself is a 40,000. That relief valve is totally gone. I made sure that they put a new relief valve in. That's the old anode rod. That's a little bit closer up. Now this is with flipping the lever and trying to scrape out some of the scale with the screwdriver. It's still low to its scale. Now I could have cleaned it out with the Maggie Red Delimer, but this was just better off. It was so old already, and that plastic was off. Just better to put on a new one. They're so inexpensive. It saves a life. It's just worth putting a new one on. This was that's a better perspective of the 4-inch vent. They even had re-glued it because they had the 4-inch vent. They had taken out the furnace. Now they have an orphan chimney. There is a scam that goes on with orphan chimneys. You've got to be aware of this. The flue gas, in order not to cause corrosion on a vent, has to be at least 200 to 250 degrees. The dew point of natural gas is 120. An orphan chimney is when they take a furnace like this one, they take it offline the chimney and they vent it out the side or out the roof with plastic. But the scam is the actual reading is supposed to be negative 0.02 to negative 0.04. If you get that reading, the flue gas will be hot enough in the vent. You don't need to spend the $1,000 to $2,000 to line the chimney. If the chimney is lined, it then still has to be rechecked to make sure they didn't put the liner in where it's too small, because these new pilots will go out if there's not enough updraft or too much. And if there's too much, you'll also cause corrosion because you get that condensation in the vent. So that's something that needs to be very much paid attention to. If you see anything like this with a single water heater, and then you see that they did this kind of vent and they didn't put in a through-the-wall power vent water heater, there's a problem. Just make a note of it. This one once they did the furnace, they should have changed the water heater, but they were moving out. These people moved in, and end of story. Okay, now
What was that temperature again?
the temperature of the flue gas, you want that vent to be at least 200 to 250 degrees, at least. Sometimes it'll get
After
up
the
to
dilution air
300.
mixes in with it.
If it's lower, the flue gas will actually condense out. If it's much hotter than that, that means there's not enough updraft, which
Okay.
means you're probably getting lower than negative 0.02. Maybe you're at negative 0.005, that kind of thing. I've run into them also where the boilers are put in wrong. They put the flue dampers on the top side, not the bottom side, so that all the flues get shut off. It's the equivalent.
Uh-oh,
I think
you're freezing
it
up,
was
Bob.
nice talking to Bob.
Yeah, I think your Logitech headset is wearing out. Battery might be low.
I think we lost him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, guys, we are over, and we try to keep it to an hour. But you know what? We've got this recorded, so I will be happy to send you guys the recording once it takes a while for it to record and become available. But I'll send you the link, and so you can watch this at your leisure. But I want to thank Bob. He was very knowledgeable. You can just tell that he would just get into stuff until you beat it to death. You can see that. Some of this is really good for us because we need to know it. But of course, a lot of it is beyond what we would do in a normal home inspection. Oh yeah, okay. Suggestion is by Janny that we put this on the YouTube channel. Yeah, we can do that. That'll be nice. Then you can get to it when you want. Charlie, you want to tell what this is?
It looks like he's just checking for backdrafting, I'm guessing. But I'm
Correct.
not familiar with the filters. Oh, hi, Bob.
Oh,
You're right.
You're back.
You're exactly right.
Yep.
Now, look at the left side gray escutcheon. See how it's cracked?
Yeah, from heat.
Okay, from heat. And if you look around the bottom underneath that flue cap, you'll see all those pieces there. That's because they've got flue gas coming into the house. Now, there's only about 14 to 40 parts per million of carbon monoxide in, I'll call it good flue gas, where they still have enough air going to the burner. But if a house doesn't have enough air, that starts getting recycled, that'll kill a family. That is a severe downdraft. Okay, now here is where I wanted to. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Now, here's another thing to check. Along the way, this is a very bad solder job. They used a pipe hanger, okay, but they did a very bad solder job. This is what happens when this was ultimately taken apart. They had never reamed the inside of the copper. So as the water's going through, it makes vortices on itself, and it started leaking. That was not good. So that had to be replaced. This is the lack of pitch. It's supposed to be 1/4 inch per lineal foot. On another time, we'll talk about expansion tanks. Those are crucial. They stop water hammer. They can stop 600 to 1,000 pounds per square inch hitting pipe. But unfortunately, the way they put that water heater in, they have the furnace and the water heater coming in at the same level, which they shouldn't. It's undersized venting for what they need, and that relief valve is leaking, but that particular person just wants to leave it leak for now because after all, they're just normalizing a danger, and a lot of people do that. They'll normalize something that should not be normalized. They have a bucket down there. I don't have a picture of the bucket here, but they have a bucket, and they're just catching the water, and then they change it. And there was one more, but I think I'm going to stop now because it's in a different set of files.
Okay, there was one question though, Bob, on the
Please.
photograph, a couple photographs ago where you said that there was a hanger, but they did a bad job. One comment was it looked like that might have been termite tubes on that pipe, that copper pipe. Go back, keep going.
Right
There you
there.
go. Yeah, see to the left underneath the copper pipe. Looks like that might be a termite tube, huh? One of our inspectors.
Yes,
One of our
yes, you're
inspectors is,
yes, you're right about the yes, you are right about that. Yes.
Okay.
The thing.
And that looks like one of my good solder jobs. I don't know what you mean by bad. That's one of my better ones.
By the way, congratulations then, because the reason you're doing a good job, if you're soldering like that, is if you're not standing in 10 feet of water, any day that you can come out of a solder job without drowning, that's a good solder job.
What
So,
about your hands? When you get all the burn marks on your hands from everything dropping on you, how's that?
yeah, exactly. And what I've been doing is I've been trying to teach a lot of the plumbers. There are some very toxic fluxes out there and some very toxic solders. There's one company, I got them in 16 hours to change their safety data sheet. They forgot to put on their safety data sheet that people were breathing in antimony, SB, very toxic. They said, for 15 years, we've had that safety data sheet up. Nobody ever called us out on that. And I said, well, for 15 years, I never looked at your safety data sheets. I decided I wanted to start looking into this because I think this industry lies. And as soon as I looked, you were the first safety data sheet I looked at. And sure enough, there's the lie. So they said, well, okay, we'll work on it. Just don't tell anybody our name. I said, I won't, but I did screenshot the safety data sheet. It was not even a day. They said it would take weeks. It wasn't even a day. They had the safety data sheet changed and updated.
Sure.
So yes, the choice of solder is important. The choice of flux being water soluble is important. These types of things are crucial to a good solder job. And another reason there's bad solder jobs is these lazy sons of a guns. They'll take, let's say, sandpaper or sandcloth. They don't wash it off. If they don't wash it off, the sandcloth stays in there. It mixes with the solder. The solder never actually touches the copper. It attaches to the sandcloth, and there's leaks. It doesn't, with capillary action, it doesn't go up and it doesn't coat the copper. So what I try to teach people is wipe it down, get clean rags, just get the grit off, use the open mesh, don't use sandcloth. That's even easier to clean. Then use the water soluble flux from Odie. I like the Odie stuff a lot. I've got no affiliation with them. They do make products that I can't stand. They're so toxic. But the Odie H2O water soluble flux is about the safest flux you can get. And the Odie silver solder has about the highest percentage of silver. It'll actually fill a bead nicely, and it's got a very wonderful range of working temperatures. So if a person is decent at soldering, by using the Odie flux and the 1% silver solder, they can actually become brilliant at soldering almost overnight. So what is used actually makes a difference. And like the other stuff and other fluxes, this does not cause systemic organ failure. Other fluxes do. And a lot of times people do not set up a fan and blow the vapors away. They breathe it in, and then they wonder why they're getting liver and kidney failure as they get to be my age. Well, there's a reason. They've been using that kind of stuff. And no, I have not used that stuff, so I do not have kidney or liver failure. But I'm one of the few exceptions. In the plumbing field itself, a lot of people have a lot of organ damage. And that's because they don't use hearing protection. They don't test, so they get electrocuted and electric shocked. I watched a guy die once because he was too chicken. Somebody at a place, I was doing a warranty job, rewiring, and a boiler that was put in, and he was working on a live panel. And I told him, I said, are you crazy? And then he went up to the people. He said, this guy says the code is I shouldn't work on it live. And they said, you'll work on it live. We won't shut down our production lines. He died right in front of me. He was about 6 to 8 feet away from me. He touched the wrong thing. I watched him die. I won't be descriptive how it looked.
Yeah.
But when you go to do an
Okay.
inspection, you also watch for yourself, follow the OSHA rules, take in that electric meter, be aware of some of these things we've discussed, and just watch out. Make sure there aren't things that are where they've normalized improper function so that you don't get caught in a backdraft or flame rollout or a house where they have a whole house and they're pulling the air out faster than it can come in. So it's causing things to shoot down or flames to suddenly hit you and start your clothes on fire. Just use caution. You always have to remind yourself of that every day because it's real easy to fall into a pattern. But these things, the dangers occur every day and there's new dangers every day. On another set of slides for another time, I'll show you with my electronic meter where I redesigned and actually sold a $100,000 job. It had the high pressure regulators and the whole thing needed a redesign. It was all incorrectly installed originally. The equipment only lasted 5 years. I had a meeting with, it's an Austrian based company. They have the contracts for almost every airport in the country. They do the food service. And they had 1.5 million BTUs that all failed in 5 years. I went in there. I was the only person of all the people that kept calling, and I was able to find out what the problems were. I diagrammed how the electrical had to be redone. Everything worked out fine. That was a $100,000 job, but it was so dangerous the way it was originally installed that, and they had also normalized it not working properly, and literally that could have killed people. Now it's safe. So just watch what you're inspecting and watch yourself because you're going into places and you're trying to be the advocate for somebody, but on the other hand, you're trying to find all the dangers that somebody else hid. That can be dangerous to you. That can be dangerous to anybody you bring in with you that wants to look over your shoulder. Make sure they're a safe distance. That kind of thing.
Okay, well, Bob, well, thank you very much. We've gone about a half hour over.
I apologize for that.
No, it was very interesting. We just about everybody's still on, so that was
Thank you,
great.
sirs.
But
And ma'am, if I may, sir, yes, sir, and ma'am, yes, ma'am. Whoever is on, thank you very much. It is an honor to have this opportunity, and just we all got to keep being a team and everybody work together. If everybody shares their knowledge and experience, we all come home that night. That's the goal. Have a nice day at work and come home at night and be safe.
okay, and you be careful on that. Be careful on that ice. Don't fall again, okay?
Sir,
And,
yes, sir. You got it.
And don't call me sir. I work for a living.
Yes, sir.
And,
I mean, sir. I mean, you know what I mean. Okay.
and Charlie, thank you for hooking us up with Bob. He was a great resource. So, guys and ladies on the call, thanks for your attendance. And I will put the link on the YouTube page, and you can look at this at your leisure. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a safe inspection, and we'll see you another time.
Thank you. Okay, we look forward to that. Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Bye. Don't call me sir.
Yeah, right, I forgot. Okay, okay, we got it.